That's okay. So witch hazel is, oh gosh, maybe the first herbal medicine and maybe the first herbalist that I ever had any contact with. I loved comic books still do, but not with the passion that I had when I was a child. I loved Little Dot and Little Lulu and a variety of other comics, but Little Dot and Little Lulu were my favorites. And Little Lulu every month had an episode with Witch Hazel, who's an actual witch, right? And Izzy, right? Her doofus apprentice, who was always getting into trouble. And so that was the first witch that I ever knew of, was Witch Hazel. And when I hit puberty and looked in the mirror and went, "Oh, what's happening to my skin?" My mom said, "Here's some witch hazel." I said, "What do I do with that?" She says, "You put it on a washcloth and you wash your face with it." I said, "Okay." And I put it on a washcloth and I washed my face with it. It made my face feel good. And it got rid of the redness and it got rid of the breakouts and it got rid of everything. So much so that when I was in college, my mom sent this statement that I made to the local newspaper and they published it because there was a special kind of witch hazel which was made there in Texas called OJ's witch hazel. So I wrote home and I said, "Send more OJ's, nearly out of beauty." And they used it as an advertising slogan for a while. I still have witch hazel in my bathroom, and Julie and I put up some jewelweed in witch hazel. Many people have heard that jewelweed is effective against poison ivy. Kinda.
It stops itches. I use it on bug bites all the time.
All the time. If you boil it and then freeze the orange water, it is almost as effective as plantain. And better in terms of poison ivy because it's in a water base and cold. Whereas plantain's almost always in an oil base and usually room temperature. So we froze, 1, 2, 3, or 4 ice cube trays full. We boiled it in witch hazel. I also boiled it in water. It works both ways. And then I boiled the jewelweed that was boiled in the witch hazel in water to extract the last of that. And that was, the color was almost this bright. It's got to be bright, bright, bright orange for it to really be effective. In Germany, for my apprentice group, we were in a classroom with 3 shallow steps leading up to it. And there was a woman with congenital arthritis. She basically, not arthritis from being old, but arthritis from just being alive. And there were days when she couldn't get up those 3 steps, so she literally had to crawl up those steps. I have another friend, the same problem she has, 2 new knees, 2 new hips, 2 new, what did they do, shoulders or elbows, and she's waiting for the other one. Yeah, she's, oh boy, what a difference it makes in her life. And she's pretty old now, she's in her 70s, so she's been living with those artificial joints. She said they made all the difference in the world to her. Thank goodness, wow. So, I said, I think that if we can find some jewelweed, some impatiens, canadensis, the orange-flowered one, I think that it would help you. Now, Impatiens canadensis is a vicious weed in North America. This comes from Europe. And so, of course, in Europe, you can't find it.
His property up in Pennsylvania is everywhere.
Everywhere. You're right, blanketing the place. Right there I am, and I can't find it because it's in its environment, so everything is pushing against it. Well, we finally go out. We take a long bicycle ride out to the Blue Grotto in southern Germany, and it's a restricted area, park in a restricted area. It's covered in jewelry.
Mm.
Covered, just like the place you're just here, just covered in sweet. I said, all right, pick every 10th one and do your best not to even make it look like we pick anything, right? Make it look like we weren't even here. And we were able to do that. We were able to pick enough to make about a gallon of liquid for her. And she started drinking that, and she was soon skipping up the steps. She said, nothing has ever relieved my joint pain as well as the jewel weed. And as I said, I do it both in water for internal use and in witch hazel for external use. Witch hazel is a wonderful degreaser. I helped take care of a woman who was in her hundreds and somethings, and she was bedridden. And when I started with the care group, they were bed bathing her. Real hassle for everybody. And leaves you uncomfortable and leads to bed sores, and it's just really hard. And I said, let's stop doing that. And let's do her with witch hazel. I said, the fact of the matter is, at her age, her skin needs to be left alone. So let's just do, what did somebody say earlier, the stinky parts?
Spot cleaning.
Or yes, spot cleaning, right? Let's just do this, right? Get her under here, right? You got some under here. You might need under here, in between here, just those parts, and then just leave the rest of it alone. She was so much more comfortable. The whole progression of bed sores stopped in its tracks. We didn't have to do the sheet thing. Oh, have mercy on us. All right. And then they wanted to wash her hair, and I said, witch hazel. Once you get a natural bristle brush, soak it with witch hazel, brush it through the hair, picks up all the oil. That's all you have to do. Once a week or so. So we kept her smelling beautiful with witch hazel. You remember Jahane, my lover who smoked cigarettes, was so conscientious. This is the most conscientious cigarette smoker I have ever met in my entire life, because she carried a small bottle of witch hazel with her. She did. So that after she had smoked a cigarette and gotten responsibly rid of what was left, she would take that witch hazel, rub it between her hands, put it all over her face, in her hair, rinse her mouth with it, and spit it out. And you didn't smell tobacco on her.
Huh.
You could hang out with her, you could kiss her, you could sing with her, and she didn't stink like an ashtray. Wow! Yay! Oh, the many, many, many uses of witch hazel. All right. Yeah, something we have to buy. You could possibly distill your own witch hazel, but it's a lot easier. And you know what? It doesn't matter what label it has on it. There's only one place that makes witch hazel in the United States. Everybody buys it from the same place. All right? So what I suggest you do is you ask the person at the drugstore, do you have witch hazel, your brand? And it will usually be half or a third of the price of the fancy ones. And you won't have to worry about essential oils in it or any. It's just distilled witch hazel. Thank you very much. And just a note on slippery elm.